Have you ever seen someone so cruelly humiliated in front of an entire schoolyard, only to rise up and turn the tables in a way nobody saw coming? This isn't just another story about bullying. It's about courage, resilience, and how one quiet girl transformed an entire school with an act so powerful. The bullies who mocked her were the ones who ended up running. Stay with me, because what started with a garden hose and cruel laughter ended with the whole community standing still, their eyes fixed on the new girl who proved everyone wrong. Chapter 1. The sun was blazing down on the schoolyard, and the smell of fresh, cut grass filled the air. It was lunchtime, and clusters of students huddled together in their usual groups. Athletes tossing a football, theater kids practicing lines under the shade, and the quiet ones lost in their books. That day, however, all attention was about to shift toward a girl nobody really knew yet. Her name was Leila, the new transfer student. Leila was different from the others. She didn't wear the latest sneakers or the trendiest jacket. Her clothes were plain, a little too big, and her shoes looked worn from being passed down. But what stood out most wasn't what she wore. It was the way she carried herself. She walked with her head down, as if she was used to being overlooked, her dark hair falling into her eyes as though it were her shield against the world. At first, some kids were curious. New students always sparked attention. But curiosity soon turned into whispers, then giggles, and before long, those whispers reached the wrong group, the bullies. Among them was Tyler, the ringleader. He had the kind of confidence that came from money, good looks, and a pack of followers who would laugh at anything he said. His favorite pastime was finding someone weaker, someone who wouldn't fight back. And to him, Leila was the perfect target. That afternoon, as Leila crossed the yard carrying her tray of food, Tyler whispered something to his friends. They grinned, and one of them slipped toward the gardening shed at the far end of the yard where a hose was coiled up. Leila didn't notice. She was too focused on keeping her tray steady. But the bullies were already setting their plan in motion. It started with words like it always does. "Hey, thrift shop, did you get those shoes from the garbage?" Tyler called out, his voice loud enough to draw everyone's attention. A wave of laughter rippled across the yard. Leila froze. Her hands tightened on the tray, her heart pounding in her chest. She told herself not to react, not to give them the satisfaction, but her silence only fueled them more. One boy blocked her path while another yanked the tray out of her hands, tossing her sandwich onto the ground. "Oops," he sneered. And then came the worst part. Tyler grabbed the hose, twisted the knob, and before she could move, a stream of freezing water blasted against her. The force knocked her backward, soaking her from head to toe. Gasps and laughter filled the yard as the bullies cheered, shouting insults while Leila stood trembling, her clothes clinging to her, water dripping from her hair. For a moment, the world blurred. Leila's cheeks burned, not from the cold, but from the shame of being humiliated in front of everyone. Her first week at a new school, and this was how she would be remembered. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She clenched her fists, her body shivering. And in that moment something inside her snapped, not in anger, but in determination. The laughter around her grew louder, but what no one expected was that instead of running away, Leila slowly straightened up. She brushed her wet hair from her face, lifted her chin, and locked her eyes on Tyler. The yard went quiet. Something in her gaze made even the bullies falter. She wasn't broken. She wasn't begging. She was calm. And in that calm, there was strength. Without a word, Leila turned and walked away, her shoes squelching with each step. The bullies smirked, thinking they had won. But what Leila did next, what she planned quietly in that moment, would shake the entire schoolyard to its core. That night, Leila sat on her bed, staring at the cracked ceiling of her small room. She thought about running, asking her mom if she could switch schools again. It had always been easier to escape than to fight. But this time was different. She was tired of being the girl who never spoke up, the one who swallowed her pain. She remembered the laughter, the sting of cold water, and Tyler's smug face. And then she remembered something else, her father's words before he passed away. Courage isn't about fighting back with fists. It's about standing so tall, people have no choice but to see who you really are. The next morning, Leila made a decision. She wouldn't hide. She wouldn't let them define her. Instead, she would take control of her own story. At school, whispers followed her, but Leila walked through the halls with her head higher than before. Some students stared, some giggled, But a few, just a few, watched her differently, as though they were waiting to see what she would do. Lunchtime came again, and the bullies were already circling like sharks. Tyler leaned against the fence, smirking. "Ready for round 2, thrift shop," he called. His friends laughed, waiting for her to shrink away. But Leela didn't. Instead, she walked straight to the gardening shed, the same spot where the humiliation had happened yesterday. She reached for the same hose they had used against her. The crowd murmured in confusion. What was she doing?